Evening, guys. Hope everybody's having a great evening. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I know I did. We spent some quality time in the farm. We got a lot of things done, discussed a lot of things, me and my son / partner, on this upcoming breeding season. A lot of positive things went on around our yard, and it's always wonderful with the fellowship, spending time on the yard with the roosters. Anyway, we'll get into our reading tonight. Our reading is going to be on the cock side of the Madigan clarets, the red and white, exact same fowl. And I will recap just a little bit from the first video where we were discussing the hen side. We know the hen's a Duray hen. She's Harrisford brown red, Harrisford yellow birchen hen for Mr. Duray, which has been said as a strand. That's the Duray fowl. There's no white Agamemnon. They're are what they are. Okay, so and we're on the cock side, and we've got all the way down to old Blackspur, which is the second infusion. The first infusion was a cock that was carrying 1/4 of the Gilman Gray and 1/4 of the Mansell Powell. And the second infusion is going to be old Blackspur, and we know old Blackspur's brothers had great success. We know Blackspur was a 9-time winner. He was a great cock, and he was infused into the line in 1917, and that's when the first white fowl showed up. The Mansell Powell is a white fowl. So what it was is when they kept tapping that Mansell Powell with that Duray blood, that white gene come out, and it came out in 1917. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to pick it up right here on the breeding of Blackspur. He was of what O'Connell called his New Hope strand, and we're going to find out exactly how he was bred, and without further ado, the New Hope strand, a purebred Mansell Powell cock bred to a Picket hen. Then a cock bred by Kearney mated to the clone male Kearney Duray hen in 1904. 10 years later, a cock from the Kearney Duray line was mated to the hen from the Picket Mansell Powell line to complete the New Hopes. So basically what they did is they just kept throwing the Duray at it because the Duray was what's working. And something about that Duray and that little bit of Mansell Powell was clicking, and they seen it, and that's what Blackspur was. He was 1/4 of the Mansell Powell, and so there you go. You're looking at that's your clarets. That is your clarets. They were about somewhere between 1/4 and 1/8 Mansell Powell, and not Mansell, but Mansell Powell, and the rest were Duray blood. So they're about 7/8 Duray, about 1/8 of the Mansell Powell, which that white gene was probably dominant. Throwed a lot of white chickens. A strong gene there, had to be. Excellent fowl, and then we're going to get into another strand of Mr. Madigan's called the Pickets. Now these ain't clarets; these are the Pickets. Now, like I said before, these guys are just like me and you. They bred these chickens a lot of ways, and they had different names for them. Well, this strand that we're fixing to get into is his Pickets. They're not the clarets. We know what the clarets are. We know the clarets are made up from a straight Duray hen, and we know what a Duray is, and we know that the cock was about 3/4 Duray and about 1/4 of that Mansell Powell. Okay, so we're looking at somewhere around 7/8 there. And that being said, let's get into the Pickets. The Pickets are a combination of the black and tans and the last living hen of the John Hunter strand, which were black brass back, with yellow legs, red eyes, white feathers in the wings and tail, and their hackles. When cut, they were snow white. The pickets were light red and white-legged white hackles in appearance. In appearance. Remember that. Do not contain a white hackle, but in appearance, they look like a white hackle. My mother has a weenie dog, a little bitty weenie dog, one of them little bitty ones. Now that little weenie dog looks the same color as a red-bone coonhound. Now the only relationship that weenie dog is to a red-bone coonhound is they're both dogs. So the only relationship these pickets had with a white hackle is they're both chickens. Don't get confused about colors with chickens. That's the worst mistake people make, and one of the most common ones. They see something that looks like something, oh, he's got to be that. Most of the time, they're not even kin to what you think they are. So don't be confused by colors. In appearance, this hen's family was brass back. And let's move on. About 1918, Madigan obtained a Lomond white-hackle cock from George Bloom and bred it into his Blackspur Claret line and reduced the blood back to 1/8. There we go. First white-hackle. The first white-hackle John H. Madigan held in his hands at his farm was a Lomond white-hackle cock of the Bloom blood. Okay, 1918. This is not a Claret. This is not the Claret line. We're finished with the Claret line. This is Pickets. It's another strand of John Madigan's. And if you think about it, this could be your answer to a lot of people that has these yellow-legged chickens that they call them Clarets and are Madigan Clarets. And they're yellow-legged. Well, I've seen some awful good ones. I mean, some awful good ones. And people call them Clarets, and they'd be yellow-legged, and they call them Madigan Clarets, and be awful good fowl. Well, this right here will explain that. Maybe they were the Pickets, because these chickens here are yellow-legged. They're coming white-legged. They come out of some yellow-legged stuff. That yellow-legged gene's gonna come back at some point, and that could be the answer to some of that. And we'll move on. The Lomond white-hackles were really great gamecocks and the foundation of the field marsh white-legged fowl, and also the striker white-hackles that once won 32 consecutive mains. There you go. That same Lomond white-hackle that John obtained and bred it to his Clarets and then bred them back out, and they called them the Pickets. It was the same white-hackle blood that Mr. Marsh used and the striker used. So evidently these were some real solid, that shows 3 different families right there just off that Picket, that Lomond white-hackle, that same family that John obtained the cock and then bred it to his Clarets, bred it back out and called them Pickets. We'll move on. In 1927, a Duray hen bred in France by Mr. Duray produced a fine son out of a clone male Duray cock. Madigan obtained this cock from Mr. O'Connell and bred him after fighting and winning with him in the Orlando tournament in 1928. Bred him to Claret hens of the Blackspur line. There you go. In 1928, what did old Madigan do? He went and got him another Duray cock of Duray's personal stuff in clone males, which clone male and Duray were doing it. You know, they were both breeding Duray's chickens. He took that cock, he slammed it right back in them Clarets again. He put more Duray to them, and that's what they basically are. The Duray fowl with just a splash of that Mansell pile in them, and made you Claret chickens. This cock was out of a Duray's Belle or Aurora hen. Now I don't know what Belle Aurora is, but that's a French. It's got to be French. So evidently this was the name of the line or of the hen that they made the names for them. And very good stuff. Or they wouldn't have been carrying on this line. This cock was a grandsire of the 8-time winning Blackspur Blinky. This sire Madigan's great tournament win in the Orlando tournaments of 1933 and 1935. In other words, Madigan wins in the big Orlando tournament, which was one of the most prestigious in the world during those days, in 2 years. Well, this one in the middle that he didn't win it, 33 and 35. So he's still hammering. This Duray fowl, the first time Madigan was introduced to it was in 1909. When, here we are in 1935, Madigan is still kicking butt with it. He's still wearing people out. He just won the Orlando tournament with these chickens. And Hermansby Duray had been winning with these chickens for a long time before Madigan got a hold of them. Unbelievable how good these chickens are. And how many other bloodlines have a dash or a touch of this or a touch of that in. They use some of that blood to create them. But we'll carry on. In 1935, 12 of these full nest brothers and blood brothers won 11 and lost 1 in the tournament. That was on the 1935 Orlando tournament. 11 and 1, that's a pretty good day. Most people ain't never did 11 and 1. 11 and 1's not that easy to do. That's one of the tough. That's a real good day for anyone, anywhere, anytime. And this was royalty meeting royalty. They wasn't no rookies at these tournaments. They wasn't no guys just got into it 2 years ago. These guys lived rooster fighting, and they had the money to get the best they could that it was in the world. And he was just wearing them out with his chickens. Later the same year, 4 of them were shown in Madigan's $5,000 main against Tommy Murphy, and they all won at Troy, New York. So basically what Madigan says later that year is, "Hey, Mr. Murphy, it's time for you to get your butt whooping. I'm coming to see you." So he'd go up there and he'd put 5 straight on him and come on back to the house. He ate Tom Murphy up. One of these cocks that threw me 13 sons that won 12 fights and lost 1 in mains in tournaments. This is the line of my Blackspur Clarets as bred by me. That's Gus Fristroff. He got a son out of this cock and raised him. One of these brothers. He had the Madigan fowl. The Clarets have 2 infusions of white blood. First through the Mansell Pile Joe Gilman Graycock in 1909. Second through the cock called Blackspur. The Mansell Piles were white cocks and the greatest cutting cocks in Europe. There is absolutely no difference in the red and white Clarets. Mr. Madigan told me this many times while I worked for him in Houston, Texas. Bam, just like I called it. Just like I called it. 2 infusions, Mansell Pile. Somewhere in there's a little old splash of gray blood too, because that first cock was carrying gray. That first infusion, that cock was half gray. So, somewhere in that gene pool there's a little dash of gray. And a personal story I seen, I'm not going to call any names, but one man that has Madigan fowl had a pair of gray chickens come out of them fowl. He'd had them fowl for years. A pair of white-legged gray fowl. Sure did. I seen them. But, hey, it's in the genes. It's going to come out sooner or later. But that is your Madigan Clarets. Cut and dry. No white alkyl in them. They're Duray with a splash of Mansell Pile. That is your Madigan Clarets. And then Pickets or a Loma white hackle with that claret bred to them and then bred back out. That was that other family that we just discussed. On our next reading, we'll be discussing the Madigan and Dean regular grays marked double right, and that's going to open some real eyes. A lot of people are really going to be controversial over this because you're going to learn some things that you didn't know and figure out that you was told some falsehoods. I know a lot of this history on these gray chickens, like I did on these claret chickens, and for years I've watched people be deceived by people who didn't know, and not necessarily on purpose. A story gets told, and then it gets told, and then it gets told, and it gets told, and it wasn't right in the beginning. But your Duray fowl, your Madigan fowl, your Madigan claret fowl, your Kearney fowl, none of them chickens ever contain no white hackle in them. And you hear people all the time, them old Duray white hackles, them old Kearney white hackles. And I'm thinking, well, somebody missed it. Was it me? Because I've read the journals, and I've never heard mention of white hackle. Ever. On either one of them, Kearney or Duray, and that means Madigan too. So getting the knowledge, there is no agenda. We're reading it straight out of the book from the man who was there. There's no agenda here. I have no agenda. My agenda is just to educate you guys. When someone's telling you something, most of the time, if it's not factual, there's two things in life. There's facts, and then there's assumptions. Most people distort facts and assumptions. A fact is that I'm sitting at this table tonight looking into this camera and reading out of this book and reading this article by Gus Fristroff. So that's a fact, because you can take a picture of me sitting at this table. A fact is something you can take a picture of. If you can't take a picture of something, it's not a fact. An assumption is anything else. You may assume I'm going to get up and take a drink of water when I get out from this phone. That's an assumption. See what I'm saying? Assumptions get you in trouble in the rooster business. You need to know the facts. Don't listen to what people are telling you when it's assumption. See with your eyes, feel with your hands. You see what's going on, something you can see, you can take a picture of, that's a fact. You're taking guesswork out of this business. It's going to make you a better rooster man. And also always be your own worst critic. It's my tip of the reading. Be your own worst critic. Because if you're your own worst critic, there ain't nothing nobody else can say about your chickens that you don't already know. Plus, you will raise better chickens if you're honest. Don't make excuses for your chickens. The weather wasn't right. It's too wet. It's too dry. I'm going to tell you something the old timers will tell you. Great cocks make great conditioners, and they make great handlers. And you let that sink in and think about that. Because that great rooster will make it seem like you fed him perfect because he's dragging over there doing what he needs to do, and it's in his DNA. There's nothing to, he was going to do it anyway. And also about the handling part, it's the same situation. Well, so-and-so sure can get it out of him. No, so-and-so ain't doing nothing. That rooster's got to want to. You give up so-and-so one that don't want to, there ain't no way. He ain't gonna know. You can't make anything do anything in life. He's got to want to, and that's going to come from being great roosters. Understand? So that's my tip of the day. Rooster's going to do what he's going to do, whether you're watching or not, because it's in his DNA. He don't care if you're looking at him. He don't care if you're not looking at him. if he is going to perform out of his heart and get a victory, he's getting it because of his DNA. If he's going to quit and run under a teepee and hide, or a brush pile and hide, or try to get out from under the door, he's going to do that whether you watching him or not, because it's in his DNA. Take the guesswork out of it. Deal with facts. Now the next reading, like I said, we're going to be in on these grays. And y'all really going to have your eyes open on them. These grays are carrying so much of the blood you guys are seeing, and got other names for it today. But it's going to be a real eye-opener. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope you continue to enjoy it. The one thing I need for you guys to do more than anything, I need you guys to subscribe to my YouTube channel. When you view this, look right down there at the bottom. While you're viewing it, you'll see a red button that says subscribe. Just click that button. It's just going to put you on the YouTube account. I need you to subscribe. If I can take the time out to do these readings for you, you can take 2.3 seconds and hit a red button. There's nobody going to charge you for it. It's free. This is all free. But I need you to subscribe. The more subscribers I have, eventually they're going to come up more and put some little ads on there. Once they start doing that, say they're making money off of us then. I can open the format up, and we don't have to sit here and do readings. After the readings are done, we can do other things. We can open this format up. And then when old Billy Bob or Bobby Sue, or ever what you want to call him or her, gets their panties in a wad and they report us, YouTube won't be near as excited about taking our stuff down because they're making money off of us. That's how YouTube makes their money, is off these ads. Okay, so I need as many subscribers as I can get so we can open our format up. We're going to do readings, yes, but I want to do some other things. I want to talk about some political stuff. I'm talking about rooster politics. I want to be able to discuss on an open forum. And I can't do that if I have very few subscribers, because we're going to get somebody butt hurt and they're going to report us. So we have to watch our P's and Q's until we get enough subscribers. Then we'll open the format up. These readings are great. I'm doing them just to educate you guys and me. We can all learn something. We know these guys tapped on these chickens, and once they figured out what was working for him, he kept going back to it. And hopefully some of you guys can implement this stuff and give you kind of some ideas on the way you can maintain your best bloodlines and maintain and improve them even. Because that's what these guys were working to do. They wasn't in the rooster selling business. Madigan wouldn't sell you a feather. I personally know, or knew, God rest his soul, he's in heaven now. One of my mentors, one of the people who taught me everything I know today, lived in Houston, growed up on the streets of Houston. And Madigan would send Gus Fristhroff. That's how I knew this was real, because this old man told me this a long time ago when I was just a kid, and I'd be sitting with him nearly every day. Would send Gus Fristhroff down there to fight them hack fights with them boys, with them small timers, with his cults, with the ones he didn't like, wasn't good enough for tournaments. And they would not sell you a feather, and Madigan made sure that those cocks were dead whenever they left. They did not give no cocks away. They didn't sell cocks. They did amongst each other. They were buddies. But as far as just a normal guy getting one of them, you wasn't. That's the way them guys was. It was truly the sport of kings. They were treated like royalty. So these guys wasn't doing this to sell cocks. Gus Fristhroff didn't write these articles with an agenda. He don't give a crap about somebody's PayPal here in 2019. This was from 1909 to 1935. I don't think he was worried about anybody's agenda today. And I don't own a Madigan cock. So it's not for my agenda, and I sure don't own no regular grays, and we're going to be on them next. We don't have no agenda. You can't have an agenda if you're trying to do something educational, because then it becomes programmed. Once it becomes programmed, you might as well be watching Days of Our Lives, some soap opera, because it ain't true. What we're out to do is set the record straight, the unadulterated truth about these bloodlines and how they were formed and how closely related they are to the fowl you have today and each other. God bless each and every one of you. Questions, comments, anything, guys, just put them on there. I love hearing it. It's great. And like I said, next one, we own them regular grays. And God bless each and every one of you. You guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you.